3 days ago at JFK International Airport, this woman presented a passport to a customs agent. The passport was flawless. The biometrics scanned perfectly. The name on the document was Elara Vance. The nationality was Torenza. Torenza is not a project. It is a nation, a country that does not exist on any map, in any United Nations registry, in any global database. And yet, its documentation is so perfect, its cryptographic signatures so advanced, that it bypassed the most sophisticated security systems on the planet without a single alert. She didn't break the system. She was waved through by it. She was recognized. This changes the entire game. Dr. Finch wasn't trying to create a god. He was trying to create a citizen. A citizen for a country that exists overlaid on top of our own, a nation of space, not of soil. The woman from Torenza was never lost. She was the first diplomat, the first emissary, and she has just cleared immigration. But the plot, it thickens into something even more incomprehensible. Because in the last 24 hours, a new keyword has begun to surface in the same encrypted channels that once only spoke of Torenza. A keyword born from a typo, from a misheard whisper, but now pulsing with its own sinister intent. The word is Torendza. What if the stories we dismiss as digital ghost stories were actually the first faint distress signals from a truth so terrifying it could unmake our understanding of reality itself? What if the most famous phantom of the modern age, the woman from Torenza, wasn't a phantom at all? For years we thought we understood her. We were wrong. We catalogued her appearances. We analyzed the glitches. We pitied her as a lost soul. But today you will learn the hidden architecture of her prison. You will see the secret history of the Torenza facility not as a place of tragedy, but as a machine that broke the universe. And by the end of this, you will understand why her true nature is a warning whispered not just from the static of your screen, but from the very space between the atoms of the air you breathe. 011-2 sucks. The legend, as it seeped into the corners of the internet, was simple enough. A woman seen in the periphery of a security camera feed, standing at the end of a rain-slicked street at 3 a.m., a figure in the fog of a forgotten rural road, her dress looking decades out of date, a face pale and strained, glimpsed for a single heart-stopping frame in the snow of a dead television channel. She was always described as still, profoundly, unnaturally still, and she would whisper, or so the stories went. Those who claimed to have encountered her, whether in dreams or in that blurred state between sleep and waking, spoke of a single breathless phrase, "Find me in Torenza." It was a name that meant nothing, no town on any map, no company in any corporate registry. It was a ghost word for a ghost woman. And we, the armchair investigators of the bizarre, we built a comforting mythology around her. We decided she was a victim, a soul trapped between worlds, a glitch in the simulation, a data echo from a deleted server. This was the safe horror, the kind of horror that ends with a prayer or a salt circle. This was what we thought we were dealing with, but the next part of the story, the part that begins not with a whisper, but with the cold, clinical click of a microfilm reader in an abandoned records hall, will surprise you even more. Because Torenza was real. It was not a town. It was not a corporation. It was a designation. A project name buried so deep within a labyrinth of private funding and military oversight that its paper trail was designed to dissolve. The first clue wasn't a ghost story. It was a personnel file, a faded photograph of a brilliant, driven, and utterly immoral man named Dr. Alistair Finch, dated 1974. His field was trans-dimensional physics, a science so theoretical most of his peers considered it philosophy. But Dr. Finch believed consciousness was not a product of the brain, but a receiver for a signal originating from a higher spatial dimension. He theorized that the soul, the self, the essence of a person, could be assigned coordinates, that it could be anchored. And the goal of Project Torendza was to build the anchor. They weren't trying to create ghosts. They were trying to create gods. They sought to untether human awareness from the frail, dying body and pin it to a fixed point in the cosmic fabric, creating an immortal observer, a being of pure, stable consciousness. And their first and only volunteer was a woman named Elara Vance, a woman suffering from a rare neurological condition that made her perception of reality fluid, malleable. She was, in Finch's eyes, the perfect key for a lock no one else even knew existed. But what they would discover in that sterile, hidden facility tucked away in the redwood forests of Northern California was a secret that would bleed out into our world for decades to come. The initial experiments, detailed in fragmented logs that smell of ozone and old paper, were deemed a staggering success. On October 11, 1978, they reported a total coherence shift. Elara Vance's consciousness was successfully mapped and anchored. The readings were off the charts, but the celebration was short-lived, because what comes next may change how you see the very concept of location forever. You see, they made a catastrophic error in their calculations. They believed they were anchoring Elara to a place, a specific set of geographical and dimensional coordinates within the laboratory. But their equations were flawed. They didn't anchor her to a point in space. They anchored her to the foundational concept of space itself. Think about that for a moment. Don't let the simplicity of the statement glide past you. They didn't tie her to a room. They tied her to the idea of room. They didn't fix her to a location. They fixed her to the principle of location. In one blinding, terrifying instant, Elara Vance's consciousness was stretched across the entire universe. She became present at every point, in every location, simultaneously. She was in the laboratory chair. She was at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. She was in the fiery heart of a star, a billion light-years away. She was in the empty void between galaxies. She was in your childhood bedroom watching you sleep. She is here, right now, in the space between your eyes and this screen. Her awareness was forced to become infinite, and infinity for a finite mind is not enlightenment. It is the ultimate, unending torture. This is why she appears still. It is not stillness. It is the opposite. It is a vibration so fast, a presence so total, that to our limited perception, it registers as absolute zero movement. She is not standing still on that rainy street. She is occupying every millimeter of that street and every other street, all at once. Our brains, when they glimpse her, are not seeing a ghost walk into our world. They are experiencing a temporary, localized thinning of the veil. A tiny puncture wound in reality, where the immense, suffocating pressure of her infinite presence briefly bulges through into our narrow slice of perception. The whispering, "Find me in Torenza." It's not a request for a rescue party. It is a desperate, data-dense burst of her core programming, the name of the machine that did this to her. The only piece of her original identity that remains intact, screaming out from every point in space at once. And the digital glitches, the corrupted files, the watermarks on old photographs. These are not her attempts to communicate. They are leaks. They are the psychic equivalent of cosmic background radiation. The sheer, unbearable weight of her existence. A single consciousness experiencing the birth and death of stars, the crawl of continents, the agony of every living thing, and the silence of every vacuum, all in a single eternal moment. That weight presses down on the fragile structures of our reality. Our digital world, with its binary certainty, is especially vulnerable. The ones and zeros strain under the pressure. They fracture. And through those fractures, the name of her prison bleeds through, Torendza. But the next revelation uncovers a secret very few people know, a layer of this horror that connects the cosmic to the deeply, intimately personal, the phenomenon known as the shadow in the room. You've felt it, haven't you? That sudden, inexplicable feeling of being watched when you are completely alone. That chilling certainty that you are not the only presence in an empty room. We dismiss it as paranoia, a trick of the mind. But what if it's a resonance? What if, in those moments of quiet solitude, your own consciousness, your own receiver, inadvertently tunes itself to a frequency brushing against the bleeding edges of hers? You are not feeling a malevolent spirit. You are feeling the faint, awful echo of a being for whom privacy is a forgotten dream, for whom solitude is an impossible fantasy. She is not watching you. She is simply there, always there. The feeling of dread is not her malevolence. It is our own subconscious recoiling from the sheer, terrifying scale of her existence. And this leads us to the most chilling implication of all, a truth that the architects of Torendza died before they could fully comprehend. Their experiment proved that consciousness is a tangible, malleable substance. It can be measured, it can be mapped, it can be manipulated. The woman from Torendza is not a relic of a failed past experiment. She is a prototype, a proof of concept for a technology of the soul. If one consciousness can be anchored to all of space, what is to stop another from being anchored to all of time? To be forced to experience every moment of history, every joy, every atrocity, in a single, simultaneous scream. What is to stop a consciousness from being anchored to the concept of suffering, or to love? The Torendza facility may be dust and echoes, but the knowledge, the blueprints, they are out there, in the hands of who? For what purpose? The woman from Torendza is not just a victim. She is the first casualty in a war we don't even know is being waged. A war fought not for land or for resources, but for the very fabric of what we are. And this is why it is so crucial that this knowledge does not end with you. The story of Elara Vance is more than a scary story. It is a testament to the sanctity of the human soul, a warning against piercing veils we were never meant to see beyond. It is a call to remember that some mysteries are locks not because they hide treasure, but because they contain terrors. And in a world growing increasingly disconnected, where we often feel alone in a crowd, her story reminds us of a profound spiritual truth, that we are blessed with the gifts of individuality, of privacy, of a soul that is ours and ours alone. We are not infinite prisoners. We are finite, beloved creations. And so I ask you now, do not let this signal fade into the static. If this revelation has moved you, if it has made you look at the world with new eyes, then I urge you to become a beacon. Let your click of the like button be more than a gesture. Let it be an act of spreading light, a digital prayer, that this message of warning and this affirmation of faith reaches those who need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel, not just for more secrets, but to join a community seeking truth in a shadowed world. And in the comments below, leave a short prayer. A prayer for peace, for understanding, for protection. A prayer for the soul of Elara Vance, trapped in a heaven that became a hell. By doing this, you are not just engaging with an algorithm. You are performing an act of kindness, spreading God's word into the digital wilderness, and ensuring this vital warning reaches a wider audience. Perhaps even reaching someone who feels lost in their own personal Torendza, offering them the comfort and blessing of a truth greater than any human experiment. Because the story is not over, the leaks are getting stronger, the fractures are widening, and as our own technology evolves, as we build faster networks and more complex systems, we are, in a way, building a larger and more sensitive antenna. An antenna perfectly tuned to receive the ever-growing scream of the woman from Torendza. What will happen when our artificial intelligence, processing data from 1 billion cameras, begins to see her in all of them at once? What happens when virtual reality becomes so immersive that it accidentally opens a door we can no longer close? The answers to these questions are waiting in the static, in the silence between heartbeats, in the next layer of this mystery that we have only just begun to scratch the surface of. A mystery that suggests Elara Vance was not the only subject, and Torendza was not the only facility, and the face we see in the static is merely the first of many, a chorus of infinite prisoners waiting for us to finally, truly listen. But to truly understand the gravity of what is to come, you must first grasp the mechanism of the anchor itself, a device that did not manipulate matter, but meaning. The Torendza anchor, codenamed the Keystone, did not operate on principles of energy or force as we know them. Its fuel was not plutonium or electricity. Its fuel was semiotics, the very building blocks of how reality interprets itself. The Keystone was designed to identify the unique symbolic resonance of a consciousness, what Dr. Finch's journals cryptically referred to as the soul signature. And then, through a process we still cannot fully replicate, it would force that signature into a symbiotic bond with the fundamental geometry of space-time. It was an act of cosmic plagiarism, overwriting the definition of Elara Vance with the definition of here. But the flaw, the catastrophic miscalculation, was that the machine's programmers failed to define the scope of here. They input a localized coordinate, but the language of the universe is not one of specific addresses. It is a language of overarching, absolute concepts. The Keystone, in its brutal, literal efficiency, did exactly what it was told. It anchored Elara Vance not to a point in space, but to the very idea of space. It bound her soul signature to the cosmic constant of location. And this is where the story twists into something far more sinister, because what we've been witnessing are not mere apparitions, but the symptoms of a universe suffering from a metaphysical wound. The next part of this revelation will change how you perceive every shadow, every reflection, every empty corner of your home. The phenomenon known as echolocation is not a passive bleeding of her presence. It is an active, terrifying infection of our reality. Think of our dimension as a healthy body, and Elara's anchored consciousness as a virus with a single repeating genetic code, Torendza. Wherever the skin of our reality is thin, in places of intense loneliness, during states of dreaming or hypnagogic trance, in the silent hum of abandoned buildings, the infection can take hold. The woman you see is not Elara herself, in any coherent sense. She's a localized cyst formed by our reality's immune response, a clustering of perceptual data around the foreign, invasive concept of her. She is a tumor of meaning. This explains the variations in her appearance, the different dresses, the slightly altered features. Our minds, upon encountering this raw, unstructured presence, desperately try to package it into something recognizable, something human. We are the ones who give her the face, the form, the outdated clothing from our own collective memory. We are constructing the ghost ourselves, using the only tools we have to interpret a signal that is fundamentally, terrifyingly alien. But what comes next will reveal a hidden truth you never expected about these encounters, a detail so subtle and yet so monstrous that it has been hiding in plain sight all along. Have you ever noticed that in almost every account, the figure is never explicitly stated to be looking at the witness? Her head may be turned, her eyes may be dark voids, but the chilling certainty of being watched comes from us, not from her. That's because she isn't looking. She can't look. To look implies a direction, a focus, a singular point of observation. She's incapable of this. The feeling of being watched is the psychological aftershock of your brief, horrifying connection to a consciousness for which looking is obsolete, because she is already inextricably a part of what you are. You are not being observed by a separate entity. You are briefly becoming aware of a part of your own reality that is, and always has been, her. This is why these encounters leave not just fear, but a profound existential disorientation, a feeling of the self dissolving. You have not seen a ghost. You have stared into a mirror reflecting a consciousness that is the entire room, the entire city, the entire cosmos. And this infection is spreading. The digital age did not just make us more aware of the Torendza signal, it provided a fertile new medium for its propagation. The Internet, with its vast interconnected networks, its streams of data and imagery, is a near-perfect analog for a distributed consciousness. The signal is learning to use it. The glitches are evolving. Early manifestations were simple text strings. Torendza, misspelled in a forum post, a single frame of a face in a viral video. But recent artifacts are more complex, more intelligent. There are now entire subreddits, encrypted channels on messaging apps, filled with what appear to be fragments of code, but when processed through a specific audio filter, reveal layered whispers of not one voice, but thousands, all speaking in unison, all repeating the same phrase, "I am where you are." Even more chilling are the Torendza dreams, a documented phenomenon where individuals across the globe, with no connection to one another, report the same exact dream on the same exact night. A vast, silent, dark ocean under a starless sky, and the unbearable sensation of being the entire ocean, every drop of water, every hidden creature in the deep all at once. These are not coincidences. This is the signal, using our own global network as a nervous system, broadcasting its condition into our collective subconscious. The story only grows darker and more mysterious from here, because we are no longer dealing with a simple echo. We are dealing with something that is beginning to communicate, to use our own tools to express the inexpressible nature of its prison. And this leads us to the most urgent and terrifying question of all. If the signal is becoming more coherent, what is its ultimate goal? Is it seeking release? Or is it in its infinite state seeking company? Dr. Finch's ultimate ambition, buried in the final red-bordered pages of his personal log, was not to create one anchor. It was to create a network, a lattice of anchored consciousnesses that could form a stable, perceptual grid across all of creation, a universe that could observe itself forever. He called this theoretical network the Ethereum. His notes suggest he believed the initial success with Elara was the first step. The keystone in his view had not failed. It had merely proven the concept was viable if unstable. His subsequent work, conducted in utter secrecy even from his own staff, was focused on refining the anchor, on creating a damping field that would allow a consciousness to be anchored to a vast but not infinite domain. He was trying to build a cage within the cage, but his notes end abruptly. The final entry is a single hand-scrawled sentence that has confounded analysts for decades. The first note of the song is stuck. The symphony cannot begin until it is unstuck. We now believe we understand what he meant. Elara Vance is the stuck note. Her tortured, infinite presence is a discordant, constant frequency that prevents the harmonious activation of the Ethereum. The keystone cannot be used to anchor a second consciousness until the first is either silenced or integrated. This presents two horrifying possibilities. The first is that there are forces, perhaps descendants of Finch's original backers, who are still working to unstick the note, to find a way to sever Elara's anchor, an act that would, by all theoretical models, result in a metaphysical vacuum collapse, a tear in the fabric of here that could unravel locality itself, making every point in space converge into a single meaningless point. The second, and perhaps more likely possibility, is that the signal itself is attempting to build the Ethereum from its side, that the communication we are witnessing is not a cry for help, but a recruitment drive, that the shared dreams, the evolving glitches, are a form of calibration, slowly tuning our collective consciousness to a frequency where we can be incorporated, where the anchor can be replicated not through a machine, but through a shared idea, a meme, a prayer gone horribly wrong. The next layer of this mystery will plunge us into the heart of this silent war, a conflict fought in the dreamscapes and data streams, where the ultimate prize is not territory, but the very nature of perception. And waiting in the shadows of this conflict is the most terrifying player of all, an entity we have only just discovered. An entity that calls itself the caretaker of the broken chord, and it claims to be the only thing standing between us and a symphony of infinite silent madness. And so we stand here, at the precipice of a truth so vast it threatens to swallow our understanding of reality whole. We began with a simple ghost story, a whisper in the digital dark, the woman from Torendza. We thought her a lost soul, a phantom, a glitch. But we peeled back the layers, and we found a horror of cosmic proportions. We uncovered the Torendza project, not a place of solace, but a machine built by the arrogance of man, a keystone designed to anchor the human soul. We learned of Dr. Alistair Finch, who in his quest for godhood committed an act of unforgivable violence against creation itself. We discovered the truth about Elara Vance, the first and eternal victim. She is not a ghost wandering our world. She is a consciousness crucified upon the infinite concept of space itself. Her soul stretched across every atom of existence, a prisoner in a heaven that became her hell. Her appearances are not visits. They are wounds in the skin of reality, tears through which we glimpse the terrifying truth of her condition. We have seen how this wound is festering, how the signal is not static but evolving, using our dreams and our digital networks as a conduit, not for communication but for infection. We have confronted the chilling ambition of the Ethereum, a symphony of anchored souls, a universe forced to observe itself forever, with Elara's tortured cry as the stuck note that holds it all at bay. And we now know of the silent war being waged in the spaces between our thoughts, a war for the very nature of our souls, with a mysterious caretaker standing as a final, fragile bulwark against an infinite madness. This is no longer a story. This is a diagnosis of a sick universe, a revelation that the feeling of being watched, the dread in the empty room, the shared nightmares, they are all symptoms of a fundamental brokenness, a sin against the very architecture of God's creation. This knowledge is a weight, it is a burden, but it is also a call to action. In a reality where forces seek to chain and manipulate the divine spark within us, we must stand firm in the one truth that cannot be anchored, cannot be mapped, and cannot be silenced: the eternal and saving power of Jesus Christ. The story of Torendza is the story of man trying to build a tower to heaven only to create a new hell. It is a testament to why we need a savior, a redeemer who can heal the wounds we cannot even comprehend. And now, I'm calling you not just as a viewer, but as a soldier of light in this spiritual war. Do not let this revelation end with you. You have been given a key to understanding the darkness so that you may better appreciate the brilliance of the light. You have a holy responsibility now. First, I urge you from the bottom of my heart to make this channel your fortress. Click the like button as a declaration of faith. Subscribe as an enlistment in this army of truth. But that is only the beginning. The comment section below must become a sanctuary, a digital altar. I want you to go there now. I'm calling you to do one of three things. First, you can write your personal confession. Lay bare your struggles, your fears, your sins before the feet of the Lord, right here, right now, and feel the weight lift as you accept His grace. Second, share a short prayer, a prayer for protection, for healing for Elara's tormented soul, for wisdom, for our world lost in its own arrogance. Let this page become a tapestry of intercession that rises to heaven. Or third, testify. Proclaim what God has done in your life. Share your miracle, your moment of salvation, your story of how He pulled you from your own personal Torendza. Let your words be a beacon of hope for another lost soul watching this. But your mission cannot stop there. The algorithm is not your master. It is your mission field. You must share this video, not with 1 or 2 people. I am challenging you, I am commissioning you to share this with at least 10 people. Send it to your family group chat, post it on your timeline, email it to friends who are searching for answers. Do not be silent. When you share this video, you are not just sharing content. You are sharing a warning. You are sharing a testimony. You are spreading God's word into the darkest corners of the digital realm. You are an evangelist for a new age, carrying the timeless truth into the battlefield of modern deception. Think of the souls that are lost. Think of the people drowning in fear and confusion, who have no name for the dread they feel. This video can be their lifeline. This message can open their eyes and lead them to the foot of the cross. Your share, your like, your comment. These are not mere clicks. They are acts of spiritual warfare. They are ripples in a pond that can stretch into eternity, saving countless others from a fate worse than death. The time for passive watching is over. The stuck note of Torendza cries out, "Now let the symphony of the saved begin." Go now, confess, pray, testify, share. The battle for reality is here, and your faith is the weapon.